it's all been pretty stark, and it all seems painfully obvious at this point. And so you're right. Rob Manfred leaving it open to the idea that we can find other people, and there are other people absolutely doing this. But the question is, what the hell do you do to stop it?
That is the question, right? Because Jason did a great job this morning on my way into work, which, by the way, thank you for keeping me awake.
First and last, 5 to 6 Eastern.
Yes, basically just saying, okay, you're going to take away draft picks. You're going to take away penalty. You're going to fine them. Everybody would sign up for the chance to win the chip, right? To sniff the chip. As Cliff Floyd said with us from Major League Baseball Network, he was on with us during the World Series. So to me, the only thing that makes any sense, if you really want to penalize some over this, is tell them you can't play in the postseason.
Well, so again, some of the harshest penalties out there, the Cardinals' punishment, remember for the hacking case, the computer hacking into the Astros, they paid a $2 million fine and forfeited its first 2 picks in the 2017 draft. And then also for the Braves had some
they were violating international signing rules.
So they would lose 12 international prospects, as well as incur severe restrictions on signing players in the 2019, 20, and 21 periods as well. So we've seen harsh penalties out there. And the one thing I've always said about penalties, and God knows the 20-some years of doing morning radio and talking about sports, is you've had to talk a lot about penalties. And I always compare it a lot to disciplining kids, disciplining you guys when you grow up. And for any parent out there disciplining kids, what is a discipline going to be? Is it a deterrent enough to stop you from doing what you did wrong? Okay? So if you did something wrong at home, is the discipline going to be enough for you to not want to do it again? I don't mean anything outlandish. Don't start losing your mind out there. But that's the idea. You're going to punish somebody for doing something. So if they think about doing that again, they're going to go, wait a minute, this was my punishment.
Postseason ban.
And I don't want to do that anymore. So whatever that's going to be, you want to throw it to us at Golic and Wingo, that's great. But that's where we are right now. What is the punishment going to be that is going to, a team will say, you know what? This just isn't worth it.
And to that point, Mike, and that's why even Trey, I disagree. I don't think a postseason ban is enough, because how long are you going to ban somebody? You still get regular season ticket gate. You still got all the money that you made through the postseason run. You still made the merch. Well, you still made lifetime generational fans.
Right, but if we're talking about legacies, and we were talking about the Astros with dynastic qualities potentially going into this World Series, right? So look, the money's going to be there regardless. So it has to be something that people value, and that's why I think the postseason ban makes the most sense.
I guess Jason's point is if you've already gotten the goods out of your postseason
I agree.
run
If you have already won the World Series and gotten that we always say championship gives you about a 5-year or so leeway. So if you've gotten that, if you lose the next postseason, now don't get me wrong, that's a harsh penalty.
Correct.
And it would be harsher than a lot of things we've seen. But I don't think you can stop there. I think if you're going to do that, like I said, you've already kind of got, unless you didn't win the World Series, unless you cheated and didn't make it there, because remember, only one team wins it. So you can then say, okay, well, at least for the next postseason or if it's 2 postseasons, we wouldn't be able to win it either. But I do think there has to be more.
I would even double down. We're in a society now where, Spygate, Deflategate, whatever these controversies are, fan bases use it as a reason to galvanize together. Trey, what you said earlier, everybody's cheating. That becomes the mantra of fans. If they get a 5-year postseason ban, fans are going to look at it and say, you know what, this is baseball wronging the Astros, not the Astros cheated. There is no solution.
But fan is short for fanatic, so you're never going to change those guys anyway.
But that's your customer when you own a team. So ultimately, if that's your customer and your customer doesn't care, a 5-year postseason ban, if you win a championship every 5 years, who cares about a postseason ban?
But nobody's winning a postseason.
But what Dad brought up is if you're a team that didn't win in the post that one, and all of a sudden you get banned, that sends a message to everyone else like, all right, if we really think our stuff is airtight and we're built to win the championship now, then you sell out. But if you're even borderline and you're curbing some of it, because you're never going to curb all of it. Like, they got an article, they've been doing this since the 50s, putting telescopes out outside the stadium and sending signals down. You're never going to curb all this. This is just like the steroids in my mind.
Right.
It is just like that, because
the cheaters will always be ahead of those trying to catch them.
Cheaters will always be ahead, but more importantly, there's always going to be some level of benefit. Like, we can talk about all these guys that get popped for steroids, and you're going to keep them out of the hall and all that stuff that matters to an extent, like Barry Bonds. To an extent. But for a lot of these guys, you still hit that big contract in large part because of the steroids you were doing. So there's the win. Like, just like you don't give back a championship as an organization, you don't get back all that money.
No.
Like, you get all that money. And so to some extent, the juice is always going to be worth the squeeze. It's going to be on Major League Baseball to make sure they have a better way to monitor this going forward and just force them to keep evolving because they're going to keep cheating.
That's obviously the best way is to stop it before it happens, but we also know how hard that's going to be.
It usually happens after we hear about it.
I don't know what the I mean, that's a start, but I don't think that stops it.
Lifetime ban, the GM involved.
What is the deterrent? And so you don't have your GM, too. I guess to anything you can sit there and say, okay, GM.
I mean, and that's, I think to the point, the only deterrent, if I owned a team, the biggest deterrent would be lifetime bans for everybody involved. And we know the Major League Baseball can't do that. So this is one of those things where you're sitting in a negotiation and you know that there's nothing to the punishment analogy. There's nothing mom and dad can do. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Listen, at the end of the day, you have to try and do something because basically the other argument is, well, we just don't need any laws.
They'll try and do something.
They have to do something.
They'll try and do something, but I think they're always going to say the juice is going to be worth the squeeze.
That is probably true, but you still have to try and make a stand.
We're so glad you're watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, make sure you subscribe to ESPN Plus. We'll see you there.